All right, now let's see what we have here. Now it tells you, okay, this is an example of the functions available to access the resources. Okay, now what are the resources if we, I forgot this step. In the main overview page here, it gives you a summarization of all the resources that you can access through the API, regardless of the language. Okay, regardless of language you're using, this is the resources that they offer. So you can get activity information. This is a type of a resource. So what does it mean? It's like the explanation of what does it mean here. Okay, you can get access channel. So channel is one type of resources that you can access. And what does it mean? It contains information on a single YouTube channel and so on. Okay, so we can have a look at what are the different resources accessible through this particular service. Okay, now how do we access them? Here's an example. Now channels is the resource, and then there's a function that's called list that gives you the list of the videos inside the channel. Okay, so we can look at the definition and some information about this function there if we click on the link. So if you go to the link, you will see the different ways to use this function that's called list in order to work with channels. Okay, you can also see all the different types of resources here and the functions that you can use to access information about this list. So for example, here, playlists is one of the resources. So the list function is pretty much common among all the resources. It's just a read of some listed information, right? Now, some of them, if it's editable, like playlists, you can insert, update, or delete in it in addition to the list. Okay. So let's start with the listing of the content of a channel. So the list function way works with a channel resource. That's what we're looking at right now. So it gives you example of common cases. You can say list and give it the channel ID. And this will give you the content of a particular channel. Okay, or you can get the content of the channel by username. Okay, or your own channel if you're authenticated. All right, now if you scroll down, now you see the HTTP request would look like this if you were to send it as a HTTP request. But we are going to send an HTTP request from Python. So we don't necessarily, this is the URL if you're gonna need the URL. But we're just gonna use the client library, which internally knows how to write the URL. So we don't have to worry about it. All right, but it tells you what parameters this function take. It's just a function, just like any function has parameters. So take something like called part, which is the particular part of the videos that you want to see. All right, and then there's category ID, an explanation of all possible parameters that are available through to send to this function. Okay. Now it also explains to you how the response look like. So it comes as a JSON, JASON, JavaScript, no A, JSON, JavaScript object notation, which is, it is supposed to be a plain text in the format of the JavaScript object. But we don't know JavaScript, but we should be familiar with this format. Does this format look familiar to us as Python developers? Yeah, looks like a dictionary, right? So it comes as plain text, but the client library would take a plain text and turn it into a dictionary for us. Okay, if you're working with JavaScript, it will take that plain text and turn it into a JavaScript object. All right, so this is how it would look like when it comes. Okay, now we're gonna try that and see the data directly. Now it explains the properties in details of the response. So everything that comes in the response, you can get information. What does it mean here? For example, there will be a list called items that it's like a list of channels that match the request criteria, for example. Okay. Now you can try out an execution of this, a call for this function from here. So this is just a quick access. Okay. Or this is also accessible in a longer page or a longer form. When you go to this, so if you click on this symbol, it takes you to sample code. So that's actually what we want to see. We want to see the sample code. If you're not interested in sample code, you can try it here, but we are interested in the sample code. So this would be, you can put the example input or argument that you want to send to the function. Okay, and it will generate the code that will include the function call with your parameters here. And you can see if you are going to send it as URL, C or L, it's just command line URL. It's just like copying the URL in the address bar, but on a command line. But if you're going to send the request as a URL, you can try it here. As HTTP request, you can try it here. We know what GET is, right? GET is a type of requests. If you are going to send it as a JavaScript code, you try it here, but we're not interested in any of that. We are interested in Python. Okay, so here we go. This is our Python code. Now see, with sample parts, so it's gonna list the snippets, content details, and the statistics. These are some of the parts available that we can change. And you can also see the ID here. Now I'm gonna try to execute this code with the authentication, just for you to see how does it look like. And let's see if this is gonna work. Now it asks you to authenticate, so it asks you to enter your credential for your Google account, and then it creates a token based on it, and it even gives you a, okay, I'm not gonna go through till the end. It gives you, eventually if you try it, it gives you a warning that this token is gonna give free access to anything that is protected by your account. Okay, so only use it when you know how to protect it. Okay, so I'm not gonna use this one. Okay, so folder, I didn't finish it. Now I'm gonna remove this. So let's see, hopefully it will regenerate. So let me just escape this and try it again. So I'm gonna go to this sample code. All right, then now it sends this values to the part argument. Now see what happens here when I change something in the configuration. So I don't want to use the credentials. So let's see if it's gonna sense it right away. What happened? Hmm? No, it still thinks that I want to use the authentication, but so let's say here's the function call. Okay, so this is a function call. Here we are sending the parameters that are a part. So you can see part equal. Okay, and then there is the ID. So you can see there's ID equal. And then I'm gonna use another of these parameters so that we can see the change. like maximum results, I'm just gonna say 10. Okay. Now you can see here, it updated the function call to include the parameter that I just added, and it also updated the call for the service itself, the build service, to use only the authentication key instead of just the the API key instead of the token-based authentication. All right, so I can try it here to see if this is what I want. I can see the execute button. There, I'm gonna execute it. So you see this is, I didn't put my key, right? I didn't put my API key, but it still brought data. So this is the shared account that is used by many people, and it can easily run out of quota. So there is a quota that is, it's not, because we're not paying for this service, so there is a limited amount of data that you can see. No, I didn't check the latest. We can check the latest because I don't remember, and they keep changing it. Okay, but this is how the data looks like. All right, if you keep trying different things and you're satisfied with what the output is, now we can take this code and start with it. Okay, so I'm gonna create a new file. I don't know, data.py. All right, so I'm gonna take this code as a starter. Okay, so it is okay that we use a code. It is there. This code is there for us to use. Okay, they make it as available for us to use in our application. So it is not a crime that you could take this code, as long as you understand how it works, so that you can customize it for your needs, and you understand how to integrate it with your application. So a lot of people, unfortunately, because there are a lot of resources and a lot of code available, they don't invest in learning how the code work, and they end up just copying blindly, and that doesn't work. That maybe for a small example might work, but if you're building a real system, then just copy and paste is not sufficient. You have to understand how things work. Okay, so now we can see here. Now, I just wanted to show you the fact that I have two different Python versions installed. The one that I installed the library in was the 3.11. Now, if I happen to choose 3.12, now it's not going to recognize the Google API client. So if you happen to install a library and then try to run a Python code expecting that this library is going to be visible, and it doesn't, you need to check whether you have multiple versions of Python installed or not. Okay, and if you do, then you can just make sure to select the one that you have the library installed for. All right, so as you can see, the import, we know what import is, right? So we are importing the discovery module from the API client library. All right. Okay, so you can see the code that builds a service is right here, and it needs a developer key. So we need to have our developer key and paste it here in order for the code to work locally. Okay, so I'm gonna go back to my project there and copy my key. And if I go back here, now let's see if this is gonna work. So now it creates a request, executed, and restores the response, and then print it. So let's see if this is gonna work. There you go. It does work. Okay, so there are some data came in. Now let's have a look at what this data look like.